Hello, welcome to Beach View, our podcast where we talk about all sorts of things. Today we have a very special topic. Just kidding, it's not really.
Yet again.
Yeah.
The fourth time we're doing this.
I like current viewings. I like to know what you've been up to, you know? Like to hear about it.
Yeah. So, what I've been up to is playing a game, which I'm once again making the joke where I said, it's not technically a viewing.
Well,
which I find hilarious every time.
I think it's a viewing. I mean, you're viewing it. I don't know. Well, I usually talk about books, and I mean, that's not really a viewing either, so... Anyway, go on.
Maybe we should change the title, but...
Current things that we're participating in.
Yeah, so I've been playing a new game that came out last weekend, at time of recording, called Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Oh, that sounds mysterious.
It's a new Pokemon game.
Okay. What's it all about?
So, it's very different from the old style of Pokemon games. They tried something new with this game, and I'm not sure how to explain it to someone who doesn't have, familiarity with, the genre and games, but,
So it's just a departure from the normal ones, I guess?
Yes. Okay. So, normally, Pokemon, you go around, you catch some Pokemon, but it's mostly about battling and, going through a rather linear sort of, story arc by getting defeating all the gym leaders and becoming the best Pokemon trainer. But this one sort of eschewed that, and it's more about catching than battling.
Ooh. And
it's open world, which... That's a genre term that I'm not sure you know what it means.
No, not really.
Okay, so, because I'm trying to think of how to describe this, because the normal Pokemon games, you're not, constrained so much. You can move around in the world more or less how you please, but, open world's a specific genre, title that refers to, being given a wide open space that you can, freely explore.
Oh, okay.
And it often involves, collecting things and, using the things you collect to craft together, items that you can use and, that sort of thing.
I got you.
So, yeah, it's that. And you're trying to catch a bunch of Pokemon. But what's different, another thing that's different is, related to the plot, which... So usually Pokemon takes place in relatively the same time frame as the games come out. Obviously it's a fantasy world, but it's based on the real world, like I told you last time. The areas in the games are based on real places, and, it's meant to be evocative of, a fantastical version of the real world, and, that includes the technology and stuff. And for this one, your character is from the future in the Pokemon world, and then you get sucked up by some space-time distortion thing and thrown into the past.
Oh.
So, and what that means, for you is that, you're coming to explore this area that hasn't been, explored before, and you're trying to create the first Pokédex for this area, which is, So what you're doing in the main series games is you're creating, you're finishing your own personal Pokédex. The implication is that, all the Pokemon are known about, and you're just trying to collect them all for your personal,
That's why they say you gotta catch them all.
To find out about them. Yeah. And in this one, you're trying to catch them all because you're trying to find out information about them and create the Pokédex.
Oh. So do you still, make them battle?
Yes, but it's much... Well, you can battle the wild ones more often, but, the battling trainers is a lot less common than in the main series game, and it isn't the main focus.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, and with that, there's some, you're going through the story, and there's, like, side quests now, which is not something Pokemon's really done before. Like, kinda done that, but now there's, like, listed side quests that, like, you have a big list of to complete, and they're, like, part of the thing in a way they weren't previously. Also, Pokemon attack you.
Ooh.
So they don't do that in the main series game. Like, they will pop up in the wild and you send out your Pokemon to fight with them. But in this one, they try to attack you personally if they see you, and not your
that's
Pokemon.
That's not nice. So you have to fight them?
Well, usually you try to sneak up on them or you run away from them.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
But you can send out your Pokemon to fight them, like in the normal games. It's just, that's not the, like, default thing anymore.
Oh, so did you like the difference?
Some parts I didn't. It's that's yeah, I've got a whole section of my notes here later on that.
Okay.
So yeah, I want to get more into the story a bit, I guess.
Okay.
So that space-time rift that spat you out into the past is causing problems. It's striking down lightning on the guardian Pokemon of areas, which are these, like, really big Pokemon that are powerful, and it's making them frenzied, so you gotta go and quell them by throwing their favorite food at them.
Okay.
So they calm down.
Yeah.
So yeah, you go do that, and then, while you're doing that, you're trying to catch all the Pokemon and trying to discover what this space-time distortion is, why it's happening, and, like, what it means and all that. So yeah, I liked it, overall. I had fun with it. There were some good moments, catching Pokemon and running around and exploring, and there were some really cool story beats. I particularly liked one where you get exiled from your group.
Why did you like that one? What happens?
It was neat.
You're on your own?
It's just the whole presentation of it I liked a lot.
Okay.
And I liked the side quests. I liked that they had side quests. Some of them were really interesting.
Cool.
But I had some problems. So first is story problems, and, like, the story structure of this is there's the overarching plot where you're trying to, like, find out what's going on with the space-time rift thingy, and that's slowly, like, sort of dripped out over the course of the thing, and during the meantime you're doing little small stories where you're trying to, like, you're interacting with characters and trying to find out how to quell the frenzied Pokemon in each area.
Mm-hmm.
So, you unlock a new area and you find out about its, like, Pokemon, and then you do, like, a bunch of things leading up to it, and then you fight the boss and then repeat, which I think's a good story structure for a larger story, the sort of a longer story. I mean, for, like, you get your larger overarching plot that's slowly, like, dripped out, and in the meantime you get more, like, character focused, like, bits in, like, as your main focus, like little vignettes, I guess. And, I think especially for, like, a TV show or something, that's, like, a really cool story structure.
Yeah.
However, I don't think this game did it very well.
Oh.
So, the overarching plot is kind of weird. I didn't think it was written very well. It felt very kludgy. Like, there are lots of moments where, like, I don't know, it just didn't... The drips weren't enough, and, like, the whole overarching thing was kind of nothing.
Like, was it slow, or...
It's not, more, like, not slow, just, like, I don't know, it didn't feel like it amounted to anything until, like, the end.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
And even then, like, it didn't feel built up properly, and even then it just wasn't, like, yeah, I don't know.
That's terrible.
And the individual parts, like, each, like, little bit where you're going to do the more character stuff and you're trying to tackle each, like, this series of episodes, so to speak, that builds up to the season finale or whatever. I felt like those parts were too short. Like, there were multiple parts where I was like, okay, I like where they're going with this. Like, I like the sort of outline of this, but in execution, it just felt like there wasn't enough time to, like, sit with this and to really explore it.
Oh.
And there's a lot of moments where it felt like they really skipped over parts that, like, if you were doing this as a TV show, you would show or something like that. So I didn't like that.
Like, it kind of they needed to spend more time on it.
Yeah, to really, like, let those parts sink in.
I gotcha. I mean, like, it sounds like it'd be a fun game the way you described it already. So, like, even if, like, the overarching thing wasn't, like, the greatest, like, do you still think it was, like, interesting or fun or engaging? Or just not engaging?
Yeah, I said I had fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, like, I like that they tried something. I like how it goes. You know, I had fun in a lot of the moment-to-moment things. And like I said, there were a lot of story bits I did like. It's just, overall, it didn't add up to, like, the story didn't add up in a way I thought was great. But also, there's a lot of little annoyances in the gameplay.
Like what? What's annoying in a game?
So the controls are really awkward. I don't know if this is something they could have fixed necessarily, just given, like, the nature of the game, but I felt like I was fumbling to do stuff often, especially, like, early on. But even, like, later I kept, like, opening up the wrong menu or taking a second longer than I felt like I should to get to what I wanted to do. Like, to use a metaphor, it felt like trying to unlock a door with, like, and you have a really, like, big key ring with a lot of keys on it. And, like, you know what you're trying to do, you know, and you know how to do it. It's just, it takes time to do that, and you gotta fiddle with it.
I see. Okay. Not the best.
Yeah, and the Pokemon attacking you thing, they're not actually that threatening, to me at least. Like, I never felt like, the only times I died in-game were when I took fall damage, which was really me just being impatient and jumping off of something I shouldn't have, you know, to get down faster. Or some of the boss fights did kill me, but, like, other than that, I didn't have any problems, so it gets really annoying that a bunch of them are trying to attack you when you're trying to go do something else.
Right, well, yeah. That's like the challenge of the game, right?
Yeah, but it's just, it's supposed to be, I think it was supposed to come across as a bit more threatening than it was, and not like, I don't know, like I'm trying to get to an item, not mess with this Pokemon, so I gotta deal with that first and dodge its attacks while I'm trying to do the thing I want to do.
I got
Or get hit by one of the attacks because I got stuck in the animation forgetting the thing I wanted.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah. And the catching mechanics are, you know, they changed those up. Like, normally when you catch something in a Pokemon game, you enter into a battle with it, and then you try to lower its health down, and then you throw your Pokeball at it so you can catch it, you know, and the lower its health, the more likely it is to be caught.
Okay.
So they changed that in this so that you don't, like, go into a separate screen to deal with that. You know, the Pokemon are just out and about, and you can just throw a ball at them. And usually this involves sneaking around and, like, trying to sneak up on them to throw the ball, because if they notice you, they'll either run away or try to attack you, and they can't be caught.
Ooh.
But, like, the mechanics that felt really basic, like, after the first few times of doing it, and it just got old fast. Like, so you either, you know, throw smoke bombs everywhere to hide yourself, which is creating your own cover, and then throw the ball at them, or you, like, throw, like, a food item out to distract them, and then while they're distracted, you throw the ball at them. Or if they get mad at you, you throw, like, a spoiled berry at them.
What?
And then they get stunned, and you throw the Pokeball at them. Like, it's just not very... I don't know. It's too involved for something that's so rote.
Okay.
But, like, not involved enough to be interesting.
Oh.
I don't know. It just felt like it got old fast.
That's a shame. You always want a new game to be fun. I mean, you know,
yeah, I mean,
a little more engaging than that.
It wasn't, like, bad. I don't think at any point it ever got really bad. It's just kind of, eh, at certain points.
Yeah. That's a bummer.
And I also felt parts of the world were lacking, like some areas felt too small, and just overall there was too little Pokemon diversity, so, like, once you... So, as part of doing the Pokédex, you want to not just catch them, but catch multiple and see them do, like, certain moves and interact with them in certain ways. Like, you get some points for feeding them, and you want to get, like, a certain amount of points, and then you're finished with the entry. And once you're finished with the entry, it feels like there's no point in, like, being anywhere near the Pokemon. So, it just, like, because there's a lot of areas that just have a lot of the same Pokemon, so it just feels really pointless. Like, okay, I've already done everything I need for this Pokemon. I don't want to see it anymore.
Do you think it was one of those situations where they're, like, trying to hurry up and meet a deadline to get the game out, and they just didn't do enough? Yeah.
I don't know. I just think this is their first time doing something new, and
I gotcha.
And also a thing with me where I'm not sure I like the genre of game this is in.
Oh, really?
Like, I'll play games like this, but I'm not sure I really like them.
I see.
In totality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be helpful if you did like them.
Because it's like, there's this whole genre of, like, kinda collecty open world things where there's, like, a huge checklist of things to do, and you're, part of the fun. It's like going and exploring and then ticking off the checklist. And at, like, a certain point, I'm, like, ticking off the checklist just to, like, finish it.
Yeah.
Rather than for actual enjoyment, and I don't know. I think it's just the genre in me, not, like, something necessarily wrong with the game.
Okay.
And also, it has boss fights, which I think I mentioned previously. Oh yeah, where you throw the food at them. And it is one of the shallowest action game, like, combats I've ever played or seen. Like, I don't...
So what does that mean? Shallow action.
Okay, so, like...
I mean, I can guess what it means.
This.
Like,
yeah.
Like where...
So, like, the problem is that... So you're just throwing your little, you wrap them up in, like, a ball and throw the food at them.
Mm-hmm.
Like a ball with cloth, like a cloth ball. Well, they're frenzied. Okay. They got a space-time distortion opened up and hit them with lightning, so they're all angry.
Okay.
So you have to calm them down by throwing food at them.
I mean, that's what calms me down usually, so I get hangry,
Yeah. But, so the boss fights in this are, the rhythm is you throw it at them, and then you, like, maybe dodge their attack and then continue throwing at them, and then you have an opportunity to enter a Pokemon battle, which lets you throw more at them. And the thing is, like, the reason I say it's shallow is because it is all throwing at them. Like, usually, in action games like this, you either have some sort of puzzle boss fight where you're trying to figure out, like, how the thing works. Like, there's, like, a trick to it and you're trying to figure that out. Or there is some sort of, like, ebb and flow and, like, when you're allowed to attack. Like, there's a specific weak point you have to hit, so you have to maneuver yourself to hit that weak point, or they block part of the time, so you have to wait for them to finish blocking, or something to, something to add variance instead of you just literally throwing it at them at all times.
I gotcha. Okay.
And, like, the only time you're not throwing is when you're dodging their attacks. Which, like... there are some bits that are kind of fine in these boss fights, but, like, they attack... Like, once you've seen, like, one attack pattern from them, like, they really have two different kinds of attack patterns, where they either charge at you and you have to dodge, or they throw some sort of projectile, and the projectiles aren't all that... Like, it's just shallow. Like, there's not a lot going on.
I gotcha. Okay.
And, like, I get that this isn't an action game, and, like...
But it could be more...
that's not the point. This is just, like, a little different, but it's still, like, kind of rubbed on me. I don't know. I didn't like the boss fights too much. I thought they could have been better.
I gotcha. Okay. It could have been a little more challenging, I guess, right?
I mean, I don't even know that, like, challenging's the right word I'm looking for. I think maybe more like...
Intriguing?
more various?
Interesting?
Yeah, with more interest. Like, it's
Yeah.
just shallow.
Nice.
More depth.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, so... yeah, I think I liked that they went in a new direction for the series, and I liked parts of it, despite having a lot of criticisms here. I don't know. I think I liked it, but I think I like the traditional style better. So.
Yeah. So when you get like a new game like this, like I'm assuming like you play it like more than once, right? I mean, like obviously like you go through all the levels or whatever it is, but like
It's not really that kind of game.
no, okay.
So you don't like go through levels. Like it's telling a story, and this is also a long game. That's part of the like open world thing. Is like open world games are usually pretty long because there's a lot. You have a whole big space to explore, like or multiple spaces to explore, and like lots of little things to do.
I see. Okay, so my question was going to be though, like if you play this again, like and go through the whole thing again, like first of all, have you played it another time, or if you did, like do you think you would like it better or worse? Like when you know how like sometimes when you try something new or you I guess play something new, like it's kind of like, oh, I don't know about this, and then when you like play it again, you're like, oh, okay, I guess I like it. Do you think you would like it more or less?
I don't know. It's hard to say, and
Yeah.
If I do ever play this again, it'll be like a long time from now.
Okay.
Like I think once I've beaten this, I'm done with it.
You're done.
I mean, I don't replay things that often, anyways, though. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't know like if that was like a normal thing that people do.
Well, it depends on like how you define replaying, because there's some games that you like play endlessly, like multiplayer games where the thing is, you're playing with different people.
Right.
Kind of like how people play chess over and over again.
Right. That's what kind of like what I was thinking, like, but it sounds like it's a different kind of game.
Yeah, this is more like a TV show where like you might rewatch it, but you're probably not going to for a while.
I gotcha. Like you'll wait until you kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
And then you go back and play it.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention the colonialism part I brought up before we start. So
I'm eager to see what this colonialism is about.
Yeah. So another weird thing about this game is So this takes place in the past, like I said, and Pokemon games are all like the areas you play in are all based off of real world locations. So this is based off of Hokkaido, which is an island that's now part of Japan. It's the big northern island. If you saw Japan on a map, you'd know it. Which actually, speaking of this game, the game I was talking about last time we talked about Pokemon?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one is set in the past of that game. Like, or in the same area, but in the past of that game, so.
Okay. I got
But this is based on roughly the 19th century, and if you know anything about what happened in the 19th century in Hokkaido in history...
Oh.
There was colonialism.
Does the game go into that?
Kind of, but not really. So, it is based on that history in part, and that, like I said, you're exploring things. Like, you wake up in a village that has been set up by people who've come from outside the region, which is, like, clearly mimicking the history where, the Japanese came and, set up shop.
Oh, no.
In this island, and, there's actually an analog for the native people, who are called the, Ainu people in real life.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But, obviously this is a kid's game, and they're not gonna have the protagonist be like do the things that happened in real history, but the two sides get along in this game, but it is based off of a real history that kind of messed up. Like, it's kind of messed up to do that, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, I guess I don't know if it's, like a good thing that they're, kind of delving into that part of it. Like, they're not denying the history, but in a way, it sounds like it's kind of sanitized, which is... Yeah, that's real iffy on, like, it could be, offensive, or it could just be like, all right, we're reading into it, it's a game, but it's a fine line. That's hard to really get into. I'm wondering why they decided to do that,
Well, because for reasons outside of that. So, like I said, they're based on real world places, and the first 4 games that had new places to explore were based in parts of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ones they picked was based on Hokkaido. And it's just for that game they came up with a lot of lore.
Yeah.
The Pokemon that is the title Pokemon, Arceus, is considered the creator of the universe in the Pokemon lore. So, so between that, that this has a lot of lore attached to it that makes for a good sort of thing for that, and the fact that they just made a remake of the original game that was based on this area.
Okay.
That the timing just obviously this is what you're going to pick for something like this, a big change up for your structure, which creates weird things when you have to okay, well, if we're based on the real world partially, should we try to do things based off of real history?
Yeah.
Is it worse to ignore that history and just do our own little thing, or to try to partially be based off of that history but a more sanitized version?
Right, because you're not going to get into the heavy stuff like you said for a game, obviously. So, I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of I don't know about this.
Yeah.
It's a painful part of the history, and I don't know. It's one of those things where it's I don't know. It's kind of cringy,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's about how I was with it, too, yeah.
Yeah, you're undecided how you feel about it. Yeah.
Yep. Alright, well, do you have a current viewing that you would like to get into?
I do. Yeah. So, well, I have a couple, but as I usually do, when you talk about games, I talk about books. So, I just read this book called It Ends With Us. It's by Colleen Hoover, who's written several books, and I've read one of hers before, actually a couple of hers before, and I really liked them, and so I kept hearing about this book, It Ends With Us. I kept hearing how good it was, and it's a great book, and just all this stuff, so in fact, it was really funny when I bought it. So I bought it online. We have this little bookstore here that doesn't really carry a ton of stuff. And so what I did was I went online, but I found an independent bookstore that was local to New Orleans, and I ordered it online from there, okay? And thinking I was doing something good. Well, I ordered several books. I was using my Christmas money, and I bought books with it, and I ordered several books, and I get them in finally, and this book was a workbook size book, okay? So all my other books are regular, novel size. This one comes and it's a paperback and it's huge. And I thought, well, maybe I accidentally ordered the large print. No, it's not large print. It's just a giant book. It's so weird.
Is it supposed to be like that?
I don't know. I was just what? It doesn't even say on the cover or anything what kind of book this is. It's just a huge book. It's hilarious. So it's literally you're in school in a workbook.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
so weird. So I was just cracking up because I'm like, well, no wonder, like, because there were, like, on this website, it was kind of like, you know, I don't want to say, but it wasn't really like a modern designed website. It was kind of like, you know, very elemental. So it had like a few books that you can choose from, and it all had the same cover. And this one was like $10.99 instead of like $15 or something like that. So of course I ordered the $10.99 one, thinking it was the same thing, but apparently it wasn't. So anyway, that was the first funny part. So I had posted it on like my story on like Instagram and Facebook and stuff, like, look at this hilarious book, you know? Anyway, and like a few of my friends like wrote, like replied to it. It was like, oh, I heard that book is so good. Or one of them said, I've been really wanting to read that. And another one said, oh, I read that. It's so good, you know? So this book has been like hyped up. Okay. So anyway, I get into it. I start reading it, and, I'll save my opinion for the end, but basically...
Well, okay. Suspenseful.
Yeah, it's suspenseful. So, basically, it's two love stories, one set in the past and one set in the present, which, you know, there's been a lot of books written that way, so I'm thinking, okay. And it was interesting because the girl, Lily, who's the main character, she basically starts reading, like, she had these old diaries. So the book starts off, her dad dies, okay? And we know immediately how she feels about her dad. She's very resentful. She doesn't like him. She had nothing to say at his funeral. Like, she had nothing nice to say about him. So we know there's, like, this contentious relationship there. Anyway, so she meets this, like, handsome stranger the day her dad dies. And it's just, like, a chance encounter. And she meets this neurosurgeon, this guy, and I don't know how you say his name. It's spelled R-Y-L-E. So I say it as Riley, but then I'm like, is it Ryle? Like Kyle? Like, I don't know. So I don't know what his name is. It's either Ryle or Riley. So anyway, I call him Riley. But so she meets this guy, but he says, like, they kind of, like, sparks kind of fly a little bit. But he says, well, I don't date. So she's like, well, I do date. So that's kind of the end of it. Anyway, so she starts delving into her old diaries that she kept when she was a kid, like in high school. And the funny part about it is that she wrote, in her journal, she wrote to Ellen, meaning like Ellen DeGeneres. She never like sent them to Ellen, but that was like who she was writing to in the journal. So every entry is like, Dear Ellen. And because she was like obsessed with the Ellen DeGeneres show when she was in high school. So that right off the bat is kind of a funny little thing. So she's reading her diaries. She writes to Ellen. She tells Ellen about what's going on. So through these diaries, like, we learn that her dad, like, abused her mother. He didn't abuse her, but he abused her mother. And that's where the resentment comes from. But in the course of this, she meets this kid who is homeless and starts living in an abandoned house behind her house. And so she's kind to him. She like brings some blankets when it's like snowing because the house is abandoned. There's no electricity or running water or anything like that. She lets him come over after school, like when her parents aren't home yet, to use the shower. And anyway, she just shows him kindness and brings him food and all that kind of stuff, and like steals some of her dad's clothes and gives it to him and stuff. And eventually they fall in love. So it's this like high school romance. He's a little bit older than her. But right before, like, she's 15, and then right before he leaves, she turns 16. And so they like hook up and are in love. Well, he gets a call that like his uncle can take him in, because what happened was his mom kicked him out of the house because his stepdad got in a fight with him or something. And so he can't go back home. So he goes to live with his uncle in Boston, and she, like, never hears from him again, okay? So she's going through these stories about her first love, which is this guy named Atlas, which I thought was a cool name. So that whole story is kind of cute, like, you know, and it's sad, too, because it ends up with, like, her dad, like, finding out that the boy was there, staying with her, and he, like, beats him up and, like, all this stuff. So it's kind of a sad thing. But Okay. So she runs into Atlas at a restaurant that she goes to with her mom. She now lives in Boston too. And she runs into Atlas and he's like the waiter at the restaurant. So she's like, wow, that was like a blast from the past, and doesn't really, see him for a while. In the meantime, like she opens her own florist shop and she meets this stranger, this girl, and the girl wants to work for her. And like she's like this rich girl, but she just wants a job to keep busy. And she like becomes best friends with this girl. We'll come to find out the girl's brother is the guy Riley, or Ryle, whatever you would call him. Anyway, so she meets back up with Riley, and he kind of pursues her, and she's like, no, like, you said you don't date, like, I'm not gonna get with you. And anyway, he kind of pursues her, and she sees him a lot because, his sister works for her, and they're best friends now, and blah, 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 blah. So, it's like this whole little love story. They fall in love. She starts dating him. Well, this is where the story, like, starts taking a darker edge, okay? Because it goes into domestic violence. But it's not, like, in a terrible way. It's basically, like, it kind of shows, like, the cycle of abuse and how it's from a place where, like, she resents her dad because he used to hit her mom. And she doesn't understand, like, why her mom, and she kind of resents her mom too. Like, why would you stay in that situation? Like, why wouldn't you just leave? And, all that kind of stuff that normally comes up with domestic abuse. And so Riley one night, like, cuts his hand or burns his hand, and then, like, all kinds of stuff, whatever. And he, like, slaps her away. And so this is the first, like, showing of violence. And he's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, and it's the whole thing. And she's like, well, I mean, he didn't really mean to do it. It's this whole domestic violence thing, right? And so it only happened once, and whatever, she forgave him. And then they end up getting married really quickly. Well, then it happens again where he hits her. And she decides to forgive him again, and then it happens again, and she, like, he really hurts her bad. And anyway, so it's this whole thing. It goes into domestic violence, and the whole thing of, like, I would never allow this to happen to myself, and then she's finding herself in that situation and doesn't know what to do. So the person that she calls is the guy Atlas, because he gave her his number in case she ever needed him, because he knew, like, this guy wasn't, like, it wasn't a good situation for her. So she ends up calling him. He comes to the rescue. And anyway, it's like all of this stuff. So she ends up getting pregnant. Like, she finds out she's pregnant at the same time that she's in the hospital, like, from what her husband, like, hit her and like, made her pass out and stuff. And so she's in the hospital, and the doctor says, oh, you're pregnant. And so now she's trying to figure out, well, do I take him back, or do I, like, I got a kid coming now? Anyway, this whole thing. So she decides when she gives birth to the kid, she's like, no, this ends with us. Like, we are not repeating this cycle. I'm not going to put this kid in this situation. And she ends up, like, I think, like, the final scene is where she ends up, like, seeing Atlas on the street. And she, like, runs, they just talk for a minute, go their separate ways. And then she, like, runs back to him, and they kind of reconnect there. So it's like, this nice little love story. However, I had no idea there were all these things about domestic violence. And I don't like to read about that kind of stuff. Like, so when I read, I like to read, like, happy, like, or even sad, but I like it to be, like, like, feel good stuff. And this it didn't feel good to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, do you ever, like, get into stuff and you're like, oh, this is a little too dark? Like, I don't know. I did not. It wasn't my favorite book. Like, and everybody loves it and thinks it's just such a great book. And I'm just kind of like, I thought it was funny that she wrote in her journal to Ellen DeGeneres, but, like, I'm not feeling this theme. And I guess it's an important thing. I mean, especially for people who are in those situations. It's like a kind of a hopeful, like, breaking the cycle kind of thing. But, like, I don't want to read about that. Like, I don't know. Does that make me shallow? I'm trying to, like, decide. Like, I just don't like that dark, kind of heavy stuff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those. I mean, I thought it was an interesting book. It was, I mean, it was told well, but I was just kind of like, you know, I would have rather have read like a sappy like love story and go with the whole trope of past and present, you know, mixing kind of thing, love triangle even. I don't know, but I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't want to read about like somebody hitting somebody. I'm just like not about the violence. I don't know.
Did you think it was bad or just like not what you expected?
I did not think it was bad. I think it was well written, and I think I could see why people found meaning in it, but I just it was not what I expected. Because I've read some stuff from her before, and it's not your typical, like, you know, love stories or anything. I thought they were kind of cool books that I read before, which is why I read this one. And it just took a turn. I was just like, whoa, did not expect that at all. You know?
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It's not what I expected. Not what I would choose to read about. If I had known, like, you know, a lot of book summaries now have like a trigger warning. This one did not. It did not say, and I avoid stuff like if it says trigger warning, like suicide or violence or whatever, like I don't read it. I don't like to be heavy, because when I read, I usually read at night right before I go to sleep, and I will dream about, like, if it's like violence or something in a book I'm reading, like I'll dream about violence, and I'm like I'm like my mind is very open to suggestion right before I go to bed. And so I was like, I don't want to like be thinking about this as I'm going to sleep, you know? So on one hand, it's like, I don't want to be subjected to these heavy subjects. And on the other hand, I'm like, but why? I mean, it's still a subject. You know what I mean? Kind of.
Yeah.
You start second guessing that, you know. So, so that's what I've been doing. I think it, you know, overall, it was a good book. It was done well, but I don't want to read it again.
All right. Yeah.
And I would definitely trigger warning to somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's what I've been up to.
Okay. Well, I have another thing, a short thing that I'm currently viewing in quotations, because it's an album, and you listen to those.
Oh, okay. I like this.
So, a new album by Mitski came out yesterday at time of recording.
Oh.
So, it's called Laurel Hell. Are you familiar with Mitski?
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, she's an indie artist, kind of like indie rock, indie pop sort of stuff. Her earlier stuff's a bit more like low fidelity sort of indie rock stuff, usually on the sadder side.
Okay.
But her more recent stuff's been a bit more poppy. It's gotten some like 80s synth influence in there, and it's gotten a bit more upbeat, but it's still, you know, pretty sad.
Oh, it sounds like my kind of thing, though. I like that 80s synth, you know, well, upbeat kind of.
It's not entirely that. It's just got some of that, like, 80s synth pop influence in it.
Okay.
But yeah, so a new album by her came out, and I really liked her 2018 album, Be the Cowboy. I listened to it a lot, because it was really short, so it was just, like, easy to put on. Like, short for an album, I think it's like 30 minutes.
Okay.
But it was easy to put on, so, like, when it came out, I just listened to it a lot. But I don't think I'll be doing that with this one, because I didn't like it very much.
No. No. Well, we are just some critics today, man.
I guess. I guess so.
Oh, that's disappointing, though. I hate that when you're like, "Oh, new album, let me get into this," and you're like, "Nah."
Now, granted, this is, like, it came out yesterday. I haven't listened to it much, so it's subject to change.
Okay.
But I just didn't really like it. It felt like a lesser version of her last album.
Oh. Is it something that you think I would like? You know how sometimes, like, when you don't like something, I'm like, I like it.
Yeah, you might. I don't think you dislike it at the very least.
Okay. I'll have to
yeah,
check
you
that out.
probably like it. Yeah, it's called Laurel Hell by Mitski again, just to signal that.
Okay. Check it out.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah, so is it those elements that you didn't like, or is it just as a whole you didn't like it?
There were some songs I liked, it's just, like I said, it felt like a lesser version of her last album, like I didn't get the same sort of, like, spark, I guess, I did from her last one. And it had a bit more of that 80s synth pop stuff. And, you know, I have previously established I don't like that genre.
Such a shame.
Yeah. But, you know, I'll probably keep listening to some of the songs on it, so I might change my opinion, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I re-listen, it like grows. I'm like, okay, I like it now. You know, it's like you gotta kind of get over
that certainly happened
the change,
with me.
and then maybe you'll like it some more. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. All right, well, so I'll outro us.
Okay.
Unless you have anything else to say.
That's all I got.
All right, well, that has been Current Viewings on Beach View Podcast. Hope you enjoyed, and tune in next time for more stuff and or things.
Maybe we'll like the stuff better next time.
I liked the first one. I just had some, quibbles with it.
Quibbles. Okay, I got you.
And I did, right. Like I said, I didn't hate every song on the album.
Okay. Join us next time.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.